6:45, this is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lal Malwarachi and read by Lavani Vijayatunga. First, we take a look at the headlines. The President will address the third South Summit of G77 and China today. The IMF expresses satisfaction towards Sri Lanka's efforts made in debt restructuring process. Traffic offenders in Colombo will be traced using the police CCTV cameras from tomorrow. It has been stated that the government has not received sufficient income last year to maintain the daily state activities. The annual Kalani Durdu Perahara will commence from tomorrow. In news overseas, senior Iran Revolutionary Guard officials killed in Israel's strike on Syria. And in sports news, India beat Bangladesh in the Match Under-19 World Championship Cricket Tournament by 84 runs. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the local news. President Ranil Wickremesinghe will address the third South Summit of the G77 and China, which commences in Kampala in Uganda today. It is held under the theme of Let's Not Leave Anyone Behind. Earlier, in a powerful address at the 19th Non-Aligned Movement Summit in Kampala, Uganda, the President emphasized the critical need to bridge the digital divides and tackle the looming threat of weapons and mass destruction. Under the theme, Deepening Cooperation for Shared Global Affluences, the President highlighted how these issues have further widened the gap between non-aligned movement developing states and the developed world, deepening global inequalities. President Wickremesinghe urged the international community to recognize the urgency of addressing these challenges, emphasizing the pivotal role that a united non-aligned movement could play in fostering a more equitable world. He underscored the importance of collective efforts in mitigating the impacts of digital disparities and preventing the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. The International Monetary Fund mission team, led by Peter Brewer, expresses satisfaction towards Sri Lanka's efforts made in debt restructuring process. They concluded the visit in Sri Lanka on Friday and discussed the recent macroeconomic developments and progress in implementing economic and financial policies under the EFF agreement. At the end of the mission, Mr. Brewer said that the economic reform program implemented by the Sri Lankan authorities is yielding the first signs of recovery. Real GDP recorded positive growth of 1.6% year-on-year in the third quarter of the year 2023, the first expansion of 6 consecutive quarters. Shortages of essentials have eased and the inflation remains contained. Gross international reserves increased by $2.5 billion during the year 2023, and preliminary data point out to improved fiscal revenue collections during the fourth quarter of the year 2023. However, challenges remain as these improvements need to translate into improved living conditions for Sri Lanka's people, the IMF delegation said. Traffic offenders in Colombo will be traced using police CCTV cameras placed in crucial locations, and the CCTV footage of the spot find sheet will be sent to the nearest police station of the vehicle owner's address beginning from tomorrow. Acting IGP Deshabandhu Tenakon said that the police will be using CCTV cameras to monitor and trace traffic offenders in Colombo in a bid to curb the traffic violations. He further said that the CCTV cameras will be utilized to prosecute offenders accordingly. Acting IGP Tenakon explained that the traffic fine sheet and the respective CCTV footage will be sent to the nearest police station of the vehicle owner's registered owner. Mr. Tenakon added that the decision was taken after observing that a substantial number of traffic rule violations have gone unnoticed by the police officers that are stationed at the locations where surveillance cameras have been set up in Colombo. This is the news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. And we continue with more local news. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says that the government did not receive sufficient income last year to maintain the daily state activities. The government has paid 7.7 billion rupees as loan repayment last year. 8.9 billion rupees has been spent as capital expenditure and the repayment of loans. He made these remarks at a media briefing held in Colombo yesterday. All development projects will be recommenced from next month after signing of the final MOUs of the loan restructuring program while having discussions with the creditors for the year 2024. The World Bank has provided 60 million rupees for the road renovation activities. The annual Kalaniya Durda Perahara of the Kalaniya Rajamahavihara will be held on the 24th of this month. The historic Kalaniya Durda Mahaperahara had its origins in the year 1927. The Perahara is organized under the guidance of the chief incumbent of the Kalaniya Rajamahavihara, Venerable Professor Mahinda Sangarakita Nayakathera, and President of the Dayaka Sabha, Dr. Saman Veerasinghe. The Udumaluwa Perahara will be held tomorrow, with the Sacred City Perahara on the following day. The Grand Durda Perahara will be held on the 24th of January. The Perahara will commence at 7 p.m. And to conclude the local news, the headlines once again. The President will address the third South Summit of the G77 and China today. The IMF expresses satisfaction towards Sri Lanka's efforts made in debt restructuring process. Traffic offenders in Colombo will be traced using the police CCTV cameras from tomorrow. It has been stated that the government has not received sufficient income last year to maintain the daily state activities. The annual Kalaniya Durda Perahara will commence from tomorrow. And that was the local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
The main news story, Minister Tiranala says that measures will be taken to safeguard children from drug abuse and underworld activities with the support of the community police committees in the future. There is a possibility that these committees to educate people on drug menace and to prevent them from getting addicted to drugs. He made these remarks at a special workshop held at the Nelumpokana Theatre. The minister also assured that he will not stop the operations being carried out to eradicate drugs and underworld while he is carrying out his duties at the Public Defence Ministry. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatma.
This is Watchlight.
And in Watchlight this morning, Epidemiology Unit of the Health Ministry is continuing its MMR, that is Measles, Mumps and Rubella catch-up immunization program for children aged between 9 months and 15 years over this weekend. Accordingly, today is the last day of this program. The measles vaccinations rolled out was kicked off after observing a decrease in the measles vaccination rates both globally and regionally during the recent COVID-19 pandemic. Epidemiology Unit says this decrease resulted in a significant surge in the incidence of measles cases on both a global and at a regional level. Parents are requested to get their children vaccinated today from their nearest clinic. And that came to you in Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Headlines of the world news: senior Iran Revolutionary Guard officials killed in Israel's strike on Syria. 2 Royal Navy warships collide off the coast of Bahrain. Dog with 6 legs has operation to remove the extra limbs. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the world news. 5 senior members of the Iranian security force have been killed in a suspected airstrike on the Syrian capital. Iran's Islamic Revolution Guard blamed Israel for the attack, which it has said has killed its military advisors as well as a number of Syrian forces. Israel has not commented. For years, it has carried out strikes on Iranian-linked targets in Syria. Such strikes have intensified since the Israel-Gaza war began following Hamas' 7th October attack on Israel. An investigation is currently underway after 2 UK warships collided at a port in Bahrain, the Royal Navy says. Video widely shared on social media appeared to show Her Majesty's ship Shingford reverse into Her Majesty's ship Mango off the coast of the Middle Eastern port. No one was hurt in the incident, the Ministry of Defence said, declining to comment on the nature of the collision while investigations continue. The 2 ships are part of UK's long-standing presence in the Gulf. Ariel, the 6-legged dog found dumped in a supermarket car park, has had surgery to remove her extra limbs. The 11-week-year-old spaniel hit the headlines after being abandoned outside the Pembrokeshire branch of B&M in September. About £15,000 were raised by well-wishers all over the world, enabling her to have a life-changing operation. Surgeon Aaron Lushman managed to save all 4 of her working limbs after fears that one might have to be amputated. And that was the world news.
Development News.
In development news, Lasana Agri-Innovation is to cultivate 10,000 hectares of land within 5 years using high-tech agriculture. Dr. Lasantha Malavige, chairman of Lasana Agri-Innovation, says the primary objective of Lasana Agri is to uplift farmers from poverty by transitioning them into modern agriculture, providing predictive revenue models for securing financial support to expand production capacities. Therefore, the project strives to transfer technology and best agricultural practices, empowering farmers to produce high-quality, safe food at affordable prices for consumers. That was the development news. Sports news follows.
Moving on with sports news.
India beat Bangladesh in their match for Under-19 World Championship cricket played in South Africa by 84 runs. Bangladesh team won the toss and decided to field first. Accordingly, the Indian team scored 251 runs for the loss of 7 wickets in their 50 overs, and in reply, Bangladesh could score only 167 runs. That was the sports news. Business news coming up.
Go ekakiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In business news, today is the last day of the 3-day Jaffna International Trade Fair 2024. It was kicked off as a part of its pivotal role in fostering economic growth and community development in the Northern Province. Organised by Lanka Exhibition and Conference Services Limited, together with the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Yalpanam, the Jaffna International Trade Fair 2024 is the 14th edition in the series. This trade fair has not only stimulated economic growth, but has also facilitated international connections, attracting delegations and investment forums from various regions. That was the business news. Economic news follows.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekakiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
In economic news, as per the latest data revealed by the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, at present, the country has welcomed 101,362 international visitors. When compared with the corresponding period of the year 2023, tourist arrivals have surged by a staggering 114% year-on-year. For the entire year, January of 2023, Sri Lanka welcomed a total of 102,545 tourists. The weekly arrival average is about 46,000, whereas the daily arrival average is about 6,700. That is the economic news and the weather report to conclude.
Weather Report.
And finally, the weather report. Prevailing showery conditions are expected to be reduced in the northern, north-central, eastern and Uva provinces from today. Several spells of showers may occur in the central, Uva, eastern and north-central provinces, and mainly fair weather will prevail elsewhere in the island. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the western, Sabaragamuwa and central provinces, and in the Gaul and Mathura districts during the morning hours. And before we conclude this bulletin, let's get back to the headlines once again. The President will address the third South Summit of the G77 and China today. The IMF expresses satisfaction towards Sri Lanka's efforts made in debt restructuring process. Traffic offenders in Colombo will be traced using the police CCTV cameras from tomorrow. It has been stated that the government has not received sufficient income last year to maintain the daily state activities. The annual Kalani Duruthu Perahera will commence from tomorrow. In news overseas, senior Iran Revolutionary Guard officials killed in Israel's strike on Syria. And in sports news, India beat Bangladesh in the match Under-19 World Championship Cricket Tournament by 84 runs. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news. Now it's back to your Sunday morning host, Abhishek, on the other side of the glass panel to brighten up your day.